Well, the topic I want to talk about today is enhancing your value proposition with engaging forums. And what I mean by value proposition is just the problem you're solving for your directory clients, whatever you're providing to them. And what forums can enable you to do is grab that information or feedback or a survey or something from your customer to kind of see how you're doing, what they need, and how you can solve their problems with your directory. And so I want to start with just a quick cartoon to answer the question of why forums. Like, why do you want to have a forum on your directory or use that for your business? And so a lot of times people think things are important when they're not. Sometimes when they're thinking about marketing their directory, they think they have some, that they're an agency and they do some other services and they decide to do a directory. And so they have this ingenious advertising campaign that's really going to, wow the customer. Some other people, have experience with search engines. And so they think that they're going to, trend on a keyword or something and focus on that. And the directory is going to be their godsend for getting them at the top of Google, which can be the case, but most often is not. Sometimes people think they do social media really good. They do Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, and they tweet something on their, about dancing cats on the cartoon here, and that's going to get them all the visitors, and they're going to start making money. Other people, think they know people in the industry, and they have a lot of people on their list because they know a lot of people. And so just by somebody going to their site and telling everybody about it, they're going to start making money. And then other people obviously think they can just pay their way into it and end up learning that they can spend a lot of money and not get any conversions. And then other people are all about promotion or doing, some fancy look on their website or some new logo or new presentation, and then that's going to make the sale. And so the punchline of the cartoon, if you're listening to this, is that it's not the consumers at the end saying to the question of what marketing touch point drove the sale. The consumer is saying, I don't know, they were out of what I wanted. Right. And so he just bought you because you were the next convenient alternative to what he actually wanted. So sometimes it's not the agency, the search engine, the social media, the influencer, your mobile advertising, or the fancy promotion. Sometimes they just buy it because they want it, right? And so the forums can provide that answer for you guys and actually help you out with that value proposition. So I just want to walk down these 3 steps of what the value proposition is and what what forums can actually help you with. And so everybody that comes to your site as a client or a business or whatever niche you're in, they have problems. And your customers either have a pain they want to remove or a gain that they want to achieve by using your site or service. And you have to figure that out. And so the forums can help you figure out what that problem is for your customer. It also can help you with solutions. So once you know the problems, you want to know that the solution that your directory is providing, the product or services that you are providing to the business or the client, the feature sets that you're providing to them on your directory, and not just arbitrarily turning everything on, right? The things that you are promoting and doing for them, that solution is actually providing a solution for them, for that particular problem that you've already established. And the last thing it can do is it can provide the benefits to know that your customers are actually receiving the solution to the problem that you thought they were actually getting. And so they can provide that feedback to you that those pains are relieved or their gains are achieved by using your actual directory. And so that's what we call the value proposition, the problems, the solutions, and the benefits, and forums can help you do that. So let's just talk first about using a forums as a survey. The benefits of surveying customers are sixfold. There's probably more than this, but here's just several of them. It can help you do market research, right? It can help you discover if there's demand for your actual product. Is the problem you're trying to solve even there? Sometimes people come up with a product or a service or a directory niche, and it may actually be solving something, it's providing some information, but there may not be a demand there enough for the information to make it a business. And so if you're just doing it for fun because you enjoy it, that's one thing. But if it's a small audience and there's not a demand for an actual product or to pay to solve that problem, then that market research will tell you that's not a good business to get into. And those surveys can help you do that. The second thing it can do is can provide product market fit. So even if there is a big market for that, doesn't necessarily mean that they want the solution that you're providing. So just because the problem's there, just like on the previous screen we showed you, those surveys can give you a confirmation, a pivot, or a vector check, basically, to see whether you need to move on to a different product set or different features that turn on in your directory, or maybe even the whole way of what you're doing for your particular niche, that what you're providing on the directory just isn't scratching that itch. So it provides that product market fit for your directory. The third thing it can do is can provide that value proposition, those three things that we just talked about on the previous slide, and gather that early feedback. And so a lot of times the cross between nice to have and willing to pay is a razor thin. And so you kind of need to know that it's something that people have of value, that there's a big audience, that they actually want that information. But the third part of that is that they're actually going to pay for that information or pay for that service. And that is where you need to concentrate as a business to make sure that that is something that you're going to be able to achieve. And the fourth thing it can do is can provide that customer segment and kind of refine that original idea. We talked about earlier about niching down on your topic set. Sometimes the actual target set for your directory may be too big. Maybe that market segment is so large that you can't even handle all of the customers you're going to get because you're a solopreneur and only doing stuff yourself. So you may have to refine it down. Perhaps you realize that your vector check is that you're kind of spraying all over the place in terms of your marketing and what you're going to do, and you don't have a focus for your marketing set, and you realize you have to niche down and refine that original idea to really focus in on one particular segment, because that's the one that is perhaps going to make the money for you, as we previously determined in that value proposition. So that customer segment piece is the fourth item. And then the fifth one is the pain point presentation. Sometimes you can be right on with the market. There's a market for it. You have the right product. They're willing to pay for it, and you're targeting the right niche, but you're a terrible salesman, or the lead pages on your directory are just not converting, or maybe you don't even get the word out that you actually do solve that problem. People are willing to pay for it, but they don't know that you actually are providing that to them. So sometimes it's just the pain point presentation, the pitch, either on your website or in person, and that survey can kind of help if it provides leads and you're talking to clients. It kind of gives you that extra practice to try to sell that to your clients, and enhances your ability to sell your product. And then the final item is the customer relationships, and it can build those relationships and win over those early adopters. So sometimes you get those key influencers or those key people that are going to be the instigators of your company's success later on. You get in with them early. Surveying them can get them involved into your business sphere of influence, see you as an influencer or an important business in their sphere, and they'll actually give you the ideas that you were lacking, provide you free insights onto what other businesses or clients are thinking, and again, potentially provide those early vector checks, value proposition, and customer segment niche clues that you're not going to get if you are not surveying them. So those are 6 things that you can get from surveying people. And so that's what you get. What do you actually lose, or what are some of the pitfalls that you fall into if you do not survey? And I think this kind of goes without saying. It's kind of the opposite, right, of the previous slide. But sometimes if you don't survey people and you don't get the information from the clients, you're going to make assumptions that are wrong. And that's going to cost you time. It's going to cost you money. It's going to cost you clients, and it can potentially cost you your business, because you're focusing on the wrong things and not doing what you should be. And you could have maybe focused a little better if you provided those surveys. And so speaking of not being able to focus, the second thing is you're actually doing more work than is required. Because sometimes when you're spraying all your marketing everywhere and you're not really focused, you don't really know what the client wants, you're busy spending time, money, focusing on things that are really not important to the client. And at the same time, that's burning you out, and you're basically losing traction. You got a lot of thrust, but not a lot of vector. and you're focusing on the wrong things and doing more work than you need to. And the third thing, obviously big thing for all businesses, you're risking your own time and money with no data. So you're wasting money on things that are not paying you back, and you're trading off your time that you could be getting other clients or money because you're wasting it on things that we just talked about. So remember, time is money, and where you're saving the time and the proper things with the survey, you're going to save that money as well. And then the fifth thing or fourth thing is that you're missing opportunities to gather that critical feedback for issues before you get it out to the masses. So sometimes it's the old canary in the coal mine. You can get just a little bit of feedback from people and realize that there's a bigger issue or potentially a bigger success than you realize just by asking a couple people. So you can kind of gather that critical information to help your business. And then the other aspect, and I'd always, say just go ahead and launch it. You can refine stuff later. That is true. But at the same time, you could be jeopardizing your brand identity for launching too early because if you don't have a process down, you have a lot of initial confusion with early customers. Just remember, a very social world today. If they get a bad taste in their mouth from your company or your experience and you don't reach out to them and it seems like you don't care, that bad word of mouth spreads 10 times faster than good word, press does. And it's kind of hard to overcome that later. So jeopardize ruining your brand identity. And so the second item I want to talk about today is not surveys, but feedback. And what can feedback do for you? It can provide insights on how you're doing and basically provide an insight onto what they think about your business. So I just want to kind of go over the 10 best customer feedback questions that you can do and ask your clients in a survey if you provide to them. So the first one, on the scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your satisfaction with our product or service? This question basically enables your customers to think about how much they like your product or service, kind of actually make them think about your product, and then give you a tangible value on that so you can kind of have a Likert scale there of how they're doing and how they like your product. The second one is, what could we do better or differently to meet or exceed your expectations? So if there's room for improvement on how you do that or service your customer, you might as well know how you can improve and get better. And you only get to do that if you ask them. Number 3 is, how likely are you to repeat business with us? And so what this basically does is accurately assesses how likely they are to come back and give you repeat business. And then you can kind of realize how sustainable your business is, because if a lot of them are saying they didn't have a problem, but they're not going to come back, then that's going to burn you out because you have to get new customers every single month or every single year, depending on when your directory turnover is. And it's called churn rate. And you don't want a big churn rate. You want to have those same customers coming back month after month or continue their subscription. Number 4 was, what was the most memorable thing during your interactions with us? This is a very meaningful question to know which parts of that customer interaction are basically, I would say, emotionally memorable, right? If the same thing keeps coming up, that, hey, everybody has a memory of blank during your interchange with them, then maybe you focus on that because everybody thinks about that. That's something you can market to and kind of build your whole customer journey around. Number 5 is, how have you done your business with similar businesses, and then what did you like or dislike about them? So what that allows you to do is reveal how you are performing against your topmost competitors. And then if they're doing something that you're not and other people like that, then odds are you probably should be doing that as well. Number 6, if this was your business, what would you do differently? And so the cool thing about this question is it kind of actually puts them in your shoes and gives them a sense of ownership on your company, like you're going to actually listen to them and make the change that they want. So they're going to be very open and honest to you and tell you what especially if they value your business or your service in the past, they're going to tell you if that was theirs, what they choose. And now they may not do it. I know I do this often myself because everybody thinks they have all the answers. Sometimes it's correct, sometimes it's not. But they listen to the customers if they're paying you, and if they want to do the change something, you don't think something's working, make sure you try to listen to them if at all possible. Number 7, why did you choose to transact with us? Like, are you satisfied with your decision that you did that? And then this may help you with your sense of purpose. Like if they tell you why they're going with you, and it kind of gives you some feedback and satisfaction to know that you're doing a good job, and then you can kind of maybe that can actually feed your decisions on where to go with your business and make you know why you are continuing to service your clients. Number 8 is how likely is it that you would recommend our product or service to a friend and why? And so this basically leverages your current client base. It's the easiest way to build depth, I guess, and breadth of customer support. So, because if they're not willing to share your company with everybody else, you want to ask them why. And then the follow-on question to that is, if they are willing to recommend you to a friend, then ask them to do it. Follow up with that and say, well, if you're willing to do that, I'd appreciate you actually telling some of your friends on that. And of course, you can actually give them something in return for that to try to entice that. And we're going to get into that a little bit later. Number 9 is how would you describe your overall customer experience with us? And that I talked about the user journey a little bit earlier. That's something you can do to kind of improve that user journey. Because if they had a snag or something went wrong, that may deter somebody else from purchasing. Maybe it didn't for them, but maybe somebody else gives some bad words or doesn't follow through with the purchase or subscribing to your directory because of that. And if you can get some insight into that, you can probably smooth the customer journey and then get a few more clients and a little bit more profit for your directory. And the final one is number 10. Is there anything else that you'd like to tell us to help us serve you better? And so I try to include this question, if you can, as the last question on those surveys while you're collecting that feedback, because it basically ensures you haven't missed out on anything. And you can capture any of those random or ad hoc thoughts that your customers have about your business. Because usually as they're going through the questions in the survey, they're thinking about something. And if you don't ask them and give them a kind of a softball lob, empty question at the end for them to put it, you're never going to get that feedback. And they always have something in their mind. If you give them an opportunity to do that, they most likely will. So the last couple of things I just want to talk about here is that you got to ask for the feedback, right? This is one I got the other day from Sunrise app. It's basically a finance application online. And it just simply says, give us your feedback. We want to improve. Give us your feedback. So you guys can make a BD directory template with this kind of information on it. And you can actually have that as part of your welcome to the community, as your welcome email. You can add this in there as well. It doesn't even have to be after the fact or after something else. Just put this right in your welcome email with a link to the survey and just ask for it. Because you'll be surprised about how many people fill out the feedback form just by asking it. And so here's another example. I literally just got this in my inbox today, Book Like a Boss. This is what I use for my scheduling appointments. And they just had a nice call to action button in the email and says, please click here to take the survey. I don't even have to read the content to know what they want. They're asking for it. And so people are likely to do that. But having said that, once you ask for the form, the crux is how do you get that feedback? Like, what form are you going to use? And so there's really been evolution of forms over time. BD has forms built into it, right? But it's pretty much similar to that Book Like a Boss. I just clicked on it this morning. That's what it looks like. Pretty plain Jane. It asks questions and gives me answers, and you can just fill them in. But forms have changed. You don't have to have your forms look like that. You can have your forms look like the form on the right. In the service I'm going to go in a little bit at the end there, will look like that. Which one would you rather have? The how did you hear about us with a blank, or how did you hear about us with a single click with an image where they just are engaged and excited about the form and want to actually click and continue because it's gamified, it's images, it's one question at a time on a page. It's not just a laundry list of the form, because sometimes when you look at the forms on a laundry list on a page, they just skip off it and never continue. So there has been evolution of the form. And so a little bit later, we'll talk about Feedier, one of the services there that's on Directory Toolkit that can kind of do all that stuff for you, can really enhance the customer journey there. So